Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
I'm Brendan.
Brandon.
Hi.
And today we're discussing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We'll laugh, we'll argue, we might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just movies.
Is that?
It might be
Is that
The new title.
the new podcast title, guys.
the new name?
They're just movies.
They're just movies.
Why do we do this? Even though you love Carpool Critics so much? Because it's more descriptive. We think it conveys our chill vibe.
We are not in a car.
We're not in a car.
And
And
we
you know
don't
what?
carpool
You guys
at all
don't
anymore.
comfortable anymore.
No, we drive independently because we're bad people. And also, if you never heard of this podcast before and you're scrolling through, now it has movie in the title. So
Exactly.
it'll be more discoverable. And that's good for you, even though you already know what this podcast is, because it means more people will listen to it, which means we'll make more money, which means we can do more podcasts.
So that was your plan all along.
the money.
And it
Sweet
also
green.
just reminds people that, hey, you know what? They're just movies.
Hey, speaking of movies, bad segue. Brandon's here. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for coming. It's bright and
It's
early.
exciting.
So
It's
Yeah.
very
We're
early.
excited to have
we
you.
do
Way too
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with David? What are you giving this movie out of 10?
What is a second act slump, LeVar Burton? You guys get it?
What? Is
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
Yeah, you'll get it one day.
this a Jeopardy question?
Yes! This movie.
What
is?
Now I get it.
It's early. There was no time to write a slogan. This movie's all right. The action's friggin' sick. The story's okay. The acting is good. At the end of this movie, I feel like if I compare this to the first phase of Marvel movies, I feel like Simu Liu, that character, Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
lands somewhere in between Thor and Captain America for me. So this is a pretty good movie. 6.9, 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah.
He's not like an Iron Man.
Yeah, he's not quite that
He's
likable.
not magnetic.
And I think he has to sit in that role a little bit longer. Like, he didn't feel like... There was moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, he's got it. And then there's moments I'm like, he's all right.
Yeah.
But it's
Riley,
a good
go.
movie.
Oh, you just want to hear my slogan?
Yeah, we want to talk at length later.
I don't need to know how to properly pronounce any of the names to have a great time watching this pretty awesome Disney-fied kung fu movie. That's the whole thing. And the reason I say that is because I saw it with a couple of my Chinese friends, or well, one's Taiwanese and the other one's Chinese, and they kept saying the names, and I was like, I'm not gonna say it right. I'm just gonna say Shang-Chi, even though that's not how you say it.
I was going to ask,
Shang-Chi.
like, what are we supposed to call it? You know how it's like, you wouldn't be like, hey, I'm going to France next week. I'm going to be visiting Paris. Like, you would sound like a douche.
Exactly.
If you did that.
Right.
But then there's people who are like, hey, you want to go eat pho? It's pho. It's like, so when is it appropriate?
I think names of people, I think, is appropriate to try.
James, you remember when
Yeah.
we said we would talk at length later?
Brandon, what are you giving this movie out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'd say it was probably the most down-to-earth Marvel opening movie. Like, Marvel origin story movie for me, anyway.
Right on.
Didn't occur in space, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just realized I didn't give it a rating. My rating was 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Shang-Chi is a pretty boring character, but he's got funny friends, and he's pretty good with the bow staff. 7 out of 10.
Nice.
I think I don't remember what I gave Black Widow. It was somewhere in the 7-ish range, but I think I actually enjoyed this on balance. It's better. It's a better movie.
Oh, this
than
I
is
think
Black
so.
way
Widow.
better
I
than
agree.
Black
I
Widow.
I didn't
There-
watch Black Widow.
There's
but
parts of Black Widow that I like more than parts of this movie, but on balance, this
Yeah.
movie won me over. And I went in with a chip on my shoulder. I was like,
Oh, really?
I went in going like, I'm gonna hate this movie
why?
because I thought it's gonna be Mulan, and I hated Mulan. I just
No.
thought it was gonna be like
Why
a
would
Disney learned maybe a little bit from Mulan, or just the
a-
way the society is
I
now.
feel like
I
there
think
was...
I don't know. That was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a different division of the
Different
company.
team.
Yeah, I think that there was more on the line for Disney because Mulan was like, is this, core legend in China? It's very much like a part of that historical culture and whatnot. So I don't know. I think they were kind of like, we have to do what China says.
I
But
also
they didn't. They screwed it up.
I also think Destin Creighton was a good choice for a director for this movie. Just because if you look at his other movies, Just Mercy and Short Term 12, like they're indie, but like heart, like they have a lot of heart. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that this movie had a lot of heart overall.
It
Like,
did.
That's why it felt so grounded. I think because he is actually like his filmmaking is fairly grounded.
Yeah,
It didn't feel like a Disney movie for the first 3/4 of it for me. Like,
Oh, really?
or it didn't feel like a Marvel movie because
Sure.
it felt more like a higher style like kung fu movie that like had a bigger budget than most kung fu movies typically would.
Yeah.
And it then added all the Marvel stuff in the last act and the last like end credit
The
scenes.
last act
'Cause
is very Marvel,
Ultimately,
yeah.
I was watching. I'm like, this doesn't feel like a Marvel.
Yeah, I like that it's such a standalone movie. Like, you really don't even need to have watched any other Marvel movies to get it.
Yeah.
I do find because I was texting someone like, oh, it's really good. Like, it doesn't feel Marvel at all. I'm like, oh, it kind of does though. They definitely do a lot of like something serious and then they cut to something undercutting it and then cutting back.
Yeah.
And they do that a little bit too much, and it kind of got under my skin a little bit by the end.
There were a few times where it was kind of like, oh, they like wrote the script and then they went for another pass and like added in some jokes.
Yeah,
you know whose opinion I'm really interested in hearing? Our sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch.
Shing is all.
If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a Shang-Chi Chrome extension, so check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics. That makes sense.
The kill switch sound is going to be the same for any movie that has swords in it.
This should have been the ringing out of those rings. There was
Oh, they have a sound effect? Little thing?
We're also brought to you by GroveMade. GroveMade creates next-level modern desk accessories for your home, office, and everyday carry. They balance between minimalist design and function. Their products are made in the USA, so build your dream workspace today so you can get your best work done, baby. They offer things like laptop and headphone stands, planters, pens, and knives, all sorts of good stuff. And so thank you, GroveMade. We like you a lot. New customers can use the code CRITIC for 10% off through the link below or at grovemade.com.
Today, the singular critic is Brandon.
Oh, the singular
critic.
Oh, yeah. That's a callback.
critic?
That's a callback. I get it.
Are we gonna
Hey, you want to remember what?
No, go.
Remember what happens in this movie?
What happened?
Okay. 1,000 years ago, a man named Xu Wenwu found the 10 rings, ancient artifacts that give their wielder great powers and long life, which he used to build wealth, influence, and a global terrorist organization also called the 10 Rings. Centuries later, Wenwu meets Li, an inhabitant of the mystical land of Ta Lo who can match his power. They fall in love and have 2 children, Shang-Chi and Xiaoling, inspiring Wenwu to abandon his evil ways. But when Li is killed by a gang Wenwu had crossed, he goes back to the dark side and rebuilds his army, training Shang-Chi into a deadly killer. At 14, Shang-Chi is sent to assassinate his mother's killer, but after fulfilling his mission, the traumatized boy escapes to America. Many years later, Shang-Chi and his friend Katie are attacked by the 10 Rings, who steal a pendant given to him by his mother. Shang-Chi and Katie go to Macau to warn Xiaoling, who also escaped Wenwu after Shang-Chi broke his promise to return to her, but Wenwu himself arrives and captures them all. Taking them back to his compound, Wenwu reveals he believes Li still lives, imprisoned in Ta Lo. And with his children's pendants, he now knows the way there. The good guys escape the compound with the help of Trevor Slattery, an actor who impersonated Wenwu. That's important. And go to Ta Lo to warn its people of Wenwu's impending attack. There, Li's sister Nan reveals that Ta Lo and its great protector dragon protects Earth from the Dweller in Darkness, who is imprisoned behind a gate. Soon, Wenwu and his army arrive and battle ensues. Wenwu casts Shang-Chi into the lake and starts breaking the gate's seal, but Shang-Chi is revived by the Great Protector, allowing him to defeat Wenwu in battle just before the Dweller in Darkness escapes his prison, killing Wenwu, but not before he gifts the 10 rings to Shang-Chi. Together, Shang-Chi, Xiaoling, Katie, and the Great Protector defeat the Dweller in Darkness. Back in San Francisco, Wong shows up to recruit Shang-Chi and Katie to the Avengers, which is the real important part.
You know what is a marker of their success in this movie is that I'm sitting in the theater, and again, I came into this as a hater, but by the end, I'm sitting there like, I can't wait to see all of this stuff integrated into the MCU.
Heck yeah.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to see the Great Protector get punched in the face by the Hulk.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Like, that's going to be wicked. Do you imagine like a late phase mashup movie like Endgame, but then that dragon is floating around back there too? It's going to be so crazy.
Well, I remember going into this thinking like, oh, the 10 rings, that's so lame. Like, whatever. It's like you can punch hard. Cool.
What?
But
They look
watching
so
this
cool.
well, I'm saying when I watched the movie, it was friggin' awesome. They totally convinced me. Even just like the first scene when his dad like slams the ground off the horse and lands in the middle of the people and starts fighting. I was like, okay, this is fucking
I had
sick.
I had the same reaction the first time the rings were used, like flying off him and everything. I was like, they look cool. They did a good job of that.
Awesome, and it opens up so many like possibilities for combat. Like he can shoot them at people. He can turn it into a big whip and like chain people around.
The fact that
in the air.
the fact that he's not part of the Avengers video game is a mistake. They need to get him in there now.
Wait, which one?
Shang-Chi in the Avengers.
Which
video
game?
The video game? The Square Enix?
The Avengers.
The Square Enix
Yes.
game? I thought everyone hates that game.
Everyone hates it, but he should be in it.
Yeah, then everyone would like it.
They would
They
like
just
it
put
more.
Black Panther
Oh,
in.
like it would be fun as a video game.
You
Oh,
would-
okay.
Because he's a perfect video
he's a
game
perfect
character.
even like some of the set pieces in this where it's like you have to hold back the enemy and like keep the little guys from powering him up. Like you have to prevent them from capturing the souls and giving him power.
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, this is literally a video
Very
game
video
mission.
gamey,
You have to alley-oop by jumping off of Morrison.
Yeah.
The chicken pig.
Let's talk about the action because I think that is the greatest strength of this movie. This is, I think, the sickest action of any MCU movie by
For sure.
far.
Yeah.
I feel
Really?
like you were saying, Brandon, in the beginning with the kung fu influence in the beginning of the movie. I really felt that. Like they use a lot of the kind of these evocative camera work, and there's a little bit of like wire work. I feel like, but not a ton.
Well, did anyone notice that the scaffolding in the tower fight scene was made of bamboo?
Yeah, and I was gonna Google that. I'm like, is that real?
I don't think that's
Is
a
that
thing, but I found it
is not
hilarious
thing?
that it
Like,
was like integrated into the scene because it made it work better.
No.
Did they never use bamboo?
I don't
scaffold?
think no.
I'm on this now,
That
guys.
is not.
No,
that is
okay,
not
I don't
safe.
know. It's Macau.
There's
I've
lots of
been
Google.
there. I
There's
thought I
lots
saw
of Google images of this.
Oh really?
Yeah. How long does bamboo scaffolding last?
Couple days.
Get that building up
corrected.
quick. Yeah.
I've never seen bamboo scaffolding. But
I mean,
I've been to Macau
I
too.
feel like I've seen lots of bamboo scaffolding, but not on like skyscrapers.
Yeah.
yeah, no, not that high up.
Now you have.
I don't
There it
buy
is.
that it would be that
Oh
high
my
up.
god.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I mentioned
wait,
that
guess
moment
I do
because
use it occasionally.
When Simu Liu fell onto it, like that in the close up on looking at him, it reminded me of like a Jackie Chan fall, like
Yeah,
where he
yeah.
just, it's like, oh, okay, I have to get back up. Like it had that like influence. It felt like.
Yeah, I think it did too because
Yeah.
they don't cut on the impact
Yeah.
all the time. They did
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
in previous Marvel movies, it's like you see the character throw the punch, and as soon as it's supposed to impact, you cut the reverse shot where the person gets hit. But they didn't do that as much in this.
Even in that very first scene where the dad's fighting off the army, it was like they made it feel as one shot as they could. Like the
Right.
camera just kept going around him, and then the wipes were like the enemies, and then it would cut to like another VFX. Like it was a lot of VFX too. Like it was very well done.
There's like something that kung fu choreographers do where they like tell the there's something about the fighting style that's like shaky. It makes it seem like really intense. Like instead of I feel like in a lot of action movies, like in previous Marvel movies and stuff, there's hand-to-hand combat. Everything's kind of smooth. Like they punch it, block, and then they do a leg sweep, and they're like, whoa, and we're down. But everything's like really like grapply with this type of fighting. Like it just seems so intense. It really feels like if I tried to get in there, I'd just die immediately.
Right.
But
You know?
to me, it felt like the first Marvel movie where the action scenes weren't dictated by a committee. It was like there's a stunt choreographer and these fighters that are just really good fighters, and like they just let them fight.
yeah, they like hire a good fight team
Yeah.
and let them work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the first scene that made me think, oh, people are going to talk about this movie for in future years. They'll still be talking about this scene. Was the fight between him and his future wife when he goes to
Oh
the
yeah,
forest?
yeah.
That was cool.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about when
That scene made me laugh because
really?
the entire time like this is a dance. It's
There
not
wa-
a fight.
Well, that's the point.
It's like
That's the
I
point.
understand
Yeah.
that. It's just it was comical because they're gonna put these two characters together because of course he falls in love with the only person who can beat him in a fight.
Yeah,
But the way she
yeah.
beats him is by being opposite to him. And then it kind of sets up that whole theme of duality that's
Yeah.
throughout the movie where
Oh, yeah.
Shang-Chi as a character needs to embrace both sides of his heritage.
for sure.
I really like that fight too, and it's kind of like the first hint into like how Ta Lo is so mystical. I mean, like we'd seen the forest move and stuff, but I really like that feeling of like, oh, it's like a Chinese fantasy movie more than even like the intro was. I will say I hate in movies when like the fight makes people fall in love. Like I found that really cheesy.
Yeah,
when
I
it's
didn't
like
like that
the
part
slow mo, they're looking at each other, and he's like, oh, smiling. Like,
That was pretty
it's just
cheesy, but I think I like accepted it because I was like, oh, this may be a reference to kind of like older cheesy kung fu movies or something. And also I was like, I don't know, it was a moment. I feel like I was totally tracking with this character of Wen Wu because he's set up as this villain, but then we're kind of getting I like him as a villain because he's complicated, you know?
He's a
He's not
villain
just
with
like,
three
he doesn't want to
dimensions,
just
yeah.
destroy things. I think he gets this artifact and he gets power and power corrupts him, but then he encounters something that breaks that corruption to a certain extent, and we kind of go with him on this journey, even if it is just the prologue. I love that scene. I love him meeting Lee.
I think that character is the best character in this movie. Like he's so well fleshed out. Like I think even more than Shang-Chi. I was like, this is like it's definitely Shang-Chi's movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like I got to know Wenwu way more.
Yeah.
I kind of was hoping that they were going to travel together when he had his kids in the compound. He's like, this is where we need to go in 3 days' time. I thought they were going to go together and it was going to be like a weird dynamic.
Like a
Basically
family-
Black Widow again.
Family vacation. Yeah.
Vacation.
But then they didn't, and they kind of ended up like, okay, we're just going to meet again at a big battle, which kind of was a letdown, but it was totally saved by the actor, the Ben Kingsley character. That
Oh
guy
my
was
God.
so funny. The comedy
believe
in
it.
this movie
It was really
landed
funny.
every time for me. I laughed at every joke. People
Yeah.
were, I blurted out laughing.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
friend I was with was clapping. He's one of those guys.
I laughed out
Oh,
loud
there's a
watching
90% chance of success. Oh, 19?
He was amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
it's
man.
crazy to me that they looped around a character that everyone hated. Like, Iron Man 3 isn't a hated movie. It's kind of like mixed. But that character, that depiction of the Mandarin, who wasn't the real Mandarin,
Yeah.
everyone hated it. So the fact that they brought him back and then like made it all work, I was like, this is kind of brilliant.
Kind of the most successful retcon ever.
Yeah.
It was such a weird thing that like I had to like wrap my head around this because it's like, okay, Marvel was like, okay, we want to bring the Mandarin in here, but it's kind of weird because the original Mandarin character is kind of cringe because he's like based on like a lot of stereotypes and weirdness. So we're going to make him not actually a Asian character. We're going to make him Ben Kingsley like playing. And he wasn't even the real bad guy in that movie. Wasn't even the Mandarin. It was like Guy Pearce's character
yeah.
in Iron Man 3.
With the glowy skin.
Yeah, with the glowy skin
I
man.
didn't
breathe
that movie.
fire or something. Like he was very strange.
Yeah.
I think he was really funny. I found he had one undercut too many. Like in the final fight, when you think he's dead and Mormont or whatever, what's the character's name? The little
Morris?
Morris is like sad. And he's like, oh, it's just a performance.
Join me.
I was like, I think this is funny, but it was the wrong moment because I feel like the drama and the tension had
It was
reached
a
its
weird
peak,
moment.
and then it felt like such an undercut, and then it was hard to get back into
I
it
think
in the next
I
scene.
completely agree with you because the humor in this movie, I think, is what brought it down in a lot of ways. Like it felt forced, and a lot of the jokes. Not all the humor landed for me because I found that a lot of the jokes they were kind of just lame. Like it also made the characters look kind of lame. Yeah. Like Awkwafina's character with a lot of her moments, she didn't actually feel like she felt like kind of awkward. I don't know. I didn't like her.
Yeah.
Like her character lacks confidence, and then she like saves them at the end. But the entire time throughout, she's just that seems like what she's there for is that comedic relief, but in a not engaging way. Like I found it to be, it didn't land because it made her look kind of silly.
I really liked her actually.
I loved her too.
Yeah, I found like I was worried going into it. Oh my god, it's just gonna be Awkwafina being Awkwafina, but I felt like they did a good job giving her depth and like a little bit of an arc. Even though I don't like the final moment of that arc, but like,
You mean her like slaying the dragon with the arrow?
yeah, that was really stupid.
I thought that was a little out there.
it was a little bummer.
Like, you just like shot arrows for the first
Well,
time.
and the way that the CG
today.
is, they make the arrow look huge in the perspective. So like from the way that shot looks, it looks like it would create a huge hole in his neck, but really it's like a tiny little arrow, and this is a huge dragon. Like it was just a stupid shot.
Yeah, it was a little moving a bit fast there for her to learn how to shoot arrows accurately in like a day.
And like one dragon thing, like we had seen a giant dragon, like a live dragon, tackle this other giant dragon so it's like dragon scales versus dragon scales. So like one tiny dragon scale arrow is enough to do it. Like that's dumb.
I was confused because like the dragon scales cause the damage, but the dragon only really has the sharp dragon scales in its tail. So it's like biting all of the things and whatever, but like that doesn't do much. It has to whip it with
No, but the biting does lots.
Well, this isn't a dragon anatomy show. I mean, they're floating dragons.
The dragon was really cool though.
was
But wait,
like, it
cool.
looked awesome.
I want to say about your Awkwafina thing. I kind of felt the same way. There were some instances of her comedy where I was kind of like, they really like tried to shoehorn this in. But for the most part, I think that she does do that Awkwafina thing of like, wait a second. I think the moment where it stuck out to me was when they put Wenwu puts the pendants in the mural, and then it makes that kind of, that was super cool.
That was
effects,
really cool.
with the water map like showing how, and she's like, your dad just like showed us this like magic dragon water map and blah, 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 and she just like kind of says the quiet part out loud, and it, like I feel like that's where a character like that is useful, where we're so in this magical crazy world and they're just like, there's a magical dragon water map.
Even just for grounding the stakes too, like when they're escaping from the fight club, if it was just Shang-Chi climbing down the scaffolding, there'd be like no real tension. Like he's a superhero, he'll be fine. But the second that she's there, you're like, this is a lot harder. This is a lot bigger stakes where like she could fall and she could die.
Yeah.
And that moment where she was falling, I'm like, are they gonna, like there was 0.3 of a second where I was like, they're gonna fucking kill her. And that really worked for me, having her there. And I don't know, like
I was scared for her. Yeah.
I was really scared for
Yeah,
her.
you actually believed it because you didn't expect her sister to just save her.
Right.
Yeah, I had a nitpick though, because when she's dangling from that bamboo, she's still like, John!
Yeah,
John!
I agree.
I wanted her to go into that next register of actual fear. Like,
No, but I think that's just Awkwafina's voice. She can't go that high.
she could if she was really
she's got
afraid.
the low husky thing going on.
Yeah.
If she was actually afraid.
John, oh my God.
But you have to admit that moment when she's like actually falling in slow-mo, that was like, there's like a bit of like,
I think
Maybe
she
it's
literally
just
just can't go up in that higher register.
Yeah.
I bet she could if she saw a spider.
Maybe.
I felt her moments too, her dramatic moments, like when she's having like her talk with Sean at like in Talo, and it's like nighttime. I can't remember what they're talking about, but
That's when he tells her that he lied to her.
yeah,
He's gonna kill his father.
She's got the acting chops.
I felt her performance more than his. That was a moment where I'm like, he's got to grow into this role a little bit. But
Yeah.
her, I was like, yeah, I'm totally feeling this.
I almost like don't even want to say it, but
He's lame?
His performance was kind of I didn't really I thought he was good, he's fine.
Yeah.
But like he's not a bad actor by any stretch, but I think that he's just kind of boring.
I think
I think it's part of the script though. I don't think it's just him.
And I think he's better. Like I said, I think he's better than Chris Hemsworth was in the first movie, and less good than Chris Evans was in his first movie.
That's a great
So he's somewhere in between, and like we now love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. So like I think we will grow to love him.
For sure.
It's just his first movie.
Brandon?
I also think that they from the first scene they set him up to be kind of dorky, like almost to a fault. Like the guy comes out of the BMW and then he throws the keys and he's the valet pickup, like the driver guy,
Right.
or the valet parking guy. And the entire movie, they didn't really give him that many moments where he could really shine. Like, yeah, he can fight, which is great, but then he was literally traumatized and trained to fight as a child. So
I feel like I would have liked to see a bit more of that trauma.
Yeah, they didn't really, because the fact that he had a friend like Katie was like as functional as he seemed to be in his life.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen when you have trauma like you
Exactly.
do.
If you want trauma, we needed the scene where he kills the leader of the Iron Gang.
Yeah,
we
which
didn't
they
get to
didn't
see
show
that.
us.
I think that's just because I bet they shot it. But I wonder if it's a Disney thing. It's like, I wanted this movie to have more blood.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see him like kill that guy and then be messed up after.
Yeah.
This is so funny because I feel like I wrote down that conversation that he has with Awkwafina where he's like, a blood debt has to be paid in blood, and he's like, I'm gonna kill my father, and he's like, when he says I'm gonna kill him, I'm like, whoa, I feel like that's kind of dark for a Marvel movie, for a character to just be like, I'm gonna kill him straight up.
Yeah.
Like especially his dad.
Especially if he had said destroy my father or something.
Yeah, or I'm gonna end him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then like a couple scenes later, the army shows up. I think it's actually just the next scene. The army shows up and they're all fighting with like basically non-lethal weapons.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, we're back to Disney here. Yeah.
But back to the character, I feel like the writing didn't give him a lot because, like, for example, in that scene, I'm going to call him the Mandarin. I can't do names. The Mandarin shows up.
Wenwu.
When Wenwu shows up, he talks to Shang-Chi. He's like, I don't know what he says, but he's like, I'm here, let me through, kind of thing. And instead of Shang-Chi answering, saying, we're not going to let you do that, his auntie answers.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, it was weird.
The character has very few opportunities to like speak for himself.
Yeah.
And other than that one scene where I agree he's goofy and stuff and we like him as a valet, there's no real point in Act 1 where you're like, I fucking love this character.
Yeah.
Which I did feel that for Awkwafina's character. And I love them together, but I just don't love him the way that I love Thor, Iron Man, or like Tony Stark. Like they're cool, or they're not cool. Like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, he's a neurotic dork too. Shang-Chi's like not neurotic enough, not funny enough, not cool enough. He's not hard enough in any direction. He's kind of just blah.
Yeah.
They didn't give him enough of a chance.
I feel like they really could have had one thing that was kind of confusing to me was. Or not confusing to me, but something that felt missing was more of a dynamic between him and his sister.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's so many interesting things you could do there, especially given the fact that he said he was going to come back and then he didn't, and they allude to that multiple times. But I would have loved to see some sort of like confrontation with them or whatever, where she like blows up at him or something, or he like breaks down.
They
and
kinda did that
apologizes.
in a
The
fight
fight was probably the closest that was ever going to get to,
Yeah.
because there was so much more of the movie that they had to cover. But I agree that there should have, and they're kind of maybe building up to that, because it feels like she might actually become a villain character with the whole 10 rings.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about that. I'm like, okay, are they saying that she's a villain here, or that she's just going to kind of be like a side player?
She just seems like mercurial. Like she's doing her own thing, and if you cross her path, then you'll be her enemy.
I could
she's
see
girl
her
bossing.
showing up in like the Hawkeye show, being like the villain in that or something.
I don't love her though. I like the narrative elements
I don't think
around
she'll
her.
be a villain, quote unquote.
Why?
I think she'll be like maybe an anti-hero type of thing where she's like in the middle.
I think though, like she'll be like it'll be
not
a,
gonna be- she's
a
not a
turn.
bad person.
No, but I think it'll be a turn
Still
probably through the
traumatized
season.
person though.
She's a traumatized person, but even like the fight ring that she was running, it's like people weren't dying. They were just kind of like, "Hey, good match, man. See you later."
Yeah.
But she seeks power.
Sure.
So, and that's all that Wenwu did.
Yeah, but Wenwu clearly had no problem like murdering people, and she obviously is not.
Well, we haven't seen that much of her yet.
That's
in that
true.
regard.
I guess she could
Also-
have had a deadly fight ring though. So.
Did anyone else notice that it was kind of funny to me that like when Awkwafina was explaining, oh my god, the water map just happened. Like they had also already seen Wong make portals and was fighting. Was that
Yeah.
Abomination?
Yeah, it was.
I was
yeah.
like, what the hell? What? How does this happen?
And apparently Tim Roth did something for this.
Oh,
even though
really? That was
like,
him? Like, in
full
that?
CGI monster. And did he have any voice lines? I don't know. But Tim Roth was
a
in
couple
there.
grunts.
Kid grunts, yeah.
Bring him in
That's
for
so
this.
funny.
He's like, nice.
No.
A
What do you-
little a check finally.
Wait, let's stay on Shy Ling though.
Yeah. What did you think of that moment of when Sean is holding on to her on the dragon and he's like, "I'm never gonna let you go."
Oh, I loved it.
I liked it, but it didn't feel like they had earned it. I don't know. Like it felt like I was like, "Yeah, just let her go."
Okay,
Like,
so-
I don't know. I didn't
I'll
connect
be-
with that
Or
moment. as
maybe
much as I
what
wanted
Riley's
to.
saying, like they needed to have one more blow up. Or,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have made that even more powerful. But as it was, I maybe retract what I said a little bit, like half of what I said, because that delivered some of that
Sure.
feeling for me, where I think that I was ready for him to let her go, because that's like a trope, a female character who's supporting the male character, and I guess she has to be sacrificed so that he can achieve his goal. For some reason that's a trope, and they didn't do it this time, and moreover, instead of subverting the expectation of the trope, it was also paying off the setup that he had abandoned her already once in his life. So this time he's like, no, not this time.
I think
was like, hell yeah, let's go.
I agree because like you're right, those pieces are there. I think what I hated about it was that what diffuses that is the Awkwafina magic shot.
Okay.
And so like it totally just removed the like what the scene means nothing. It's just
See, I feel-
they're gonna
I
undo
feel-
it with some like almost Deus Ex Machina.
Instead of the Awkwafina bow shot, what if like Auntie Nan came in and helped?
Yeah.
That would have been better. That
would've
would have
been
made more
cool.
sense because she's had one day with the bow and then can nail a shot that kills or like knocks this thing back enough that
Yeah.
they can all get away.
Or like there was a conflict between him and his sister where like she didn't trust him or he didn't trust her, and that was a moment where like they had to like work together, and together they could defeat do the strike that would stumble the dragon and do it. Like there's a lot of
Right.
other things they could do. It's just that Awkwafina shot, man, that really ruined that ending for me.
It didn't, honestly. I was kind of, it was kind of like but it wasn't like that's dumb. Like I could sort of see how, like, it's a big target and they're more or less stationary, and we had seen that she can, hit.
I feel like
somewhere
we've
near
talked
the
about
target.
that shot enough.
Let's keep talking about it for a long time.
I like the narrative elements around Sha Ling. Like, I like the fact that she's saying, just if you just nod, he'll forget you're here. I like the fact that she has this trauma that she was abandoned and had to just fend for herself and all that. But I think that she just doesn't have a lot of charisma, and she was just kind of flat.
What?
Like, I don't really want to see more of her. Like, I like all the setup, I like everything that was on the page, but I don't know if I like the way it was presented.
I think that it was presented exactly how that character would be given the circumstances, like being abandoned by her parents, having a brother that never came back for her, having to fend for herself. Like, she's gonna feel that way. She's not gonna be the very a super likable, charismatic character, because that's not her personality type. Is like how they've set it up.
Okay.
I think it's not so much for me that, because I mostly agree with James here. I think it's not so much that it doesn't make sense, her characterization, but I think I would have liked the script writers to give her a little more opportunities to show her character.
Her dimension?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do, like, I don't know. Like, as I'm saying this, I'm like, we see that she kind of abandons them as soon as the 10 Rings shows up, and she's like, I'm out of here. And then she comes back to save them, which is some character growth there. But that's kind of like, it happens in the background. Like, she goes away and then she comes back, and they don't talk about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the problems in this movie is that Wenwu is probably like the most developed character, and he's the villain.
Right. Very good villain.
He's great. Man, I think my
He
favorite.
was so cool.
He was so cool
the entire
But
time.
You really do understand him. Like it was such a good origin for him. Like I'm sad he's dead. I'm like, I want to see more of him.
Yeah.
Like that scene when he brings Sean to watch him get revenge for like the death of his mom into that like that bar. And then it's the shot of Sean like cowering against the wall in the reflection. You just see him like angry murdering everyone. I was like, I'm really fucking feeling this.
Yeah, man, that action too, like all throughout the movie, as we've said, but that scene is like so visceral.
Yeah.
I just feel the rage. The actor who plays Wenwu, so good. I've really
Excellent.
I feel like I knew this character, and I was scared for a second that they were like going to make him be lying about the fact that he heard Lee, because he just wants to get into Ta Lo or whatever. But then we hear him actually hear her voice, and it's the dweller in darkness.
We learn later.
We learn that later, and I'm like, oh, that's so much better, because it's so much better to have the villain truly believe that he's doing the right thing instead of just like, oh, I want to dominate or whatever.
Yeah, it was a good device because it's audience superior. We know something that Shang-Chi doesn't know. But then it turns out we don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
We learn later. But I will say this movie does one of those kind of annoying things where there's a big conflict, which is the consequence of poor communication. I really hate that. Like, they're standing at the gates together and his dad's like, your mom's in there. We got to go in there. And instead of being like, actually, what you're hearing is a demon. You've been deceived. And just explaining it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
He goes,
No, it's not.
you can't, you didn't hear her or something like So then Wenwu is like, you're gaslighting me. I definitely am hearing her. So it's like, if you just fucking explain it.
I know. But if Shang-Chi was just like, look up, look at those demons that are coming out. See those? Those aren't your wife. Like, I don't know.
He's just like, they're the ones holding my wife back.
It's dumb.
But that's movies.
I will say I loved the visual. Like, is every Marvel movie has to have like a big laser in the sky or like a big like, and I like that dragon scale gate and him just like wailing at it. I felt it in like the vibration, like the going from red to gray and the things crawling out of it. I was like, I'm feeling this.
And that freaking thing that comes out of it, like dragon with tentacles, the scariest thing imaginable.
Yeah. Oh, and his mouth. His mouth is way scarier than I would expect in a Disney movie.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't expect it to be that like. It was like a gods of the old world type of Cthulhu type of situation.
It felt very grotesque for a Marvel, like,
Totally.
but it was really good. Like, it was
super
awesome.
scary.
Yeah. And then there's some visuals in that last fight, like when the protector is like trapping him in his water, and there's like the huge wide shot of the dragon kind of on his back, surrounded by the water, and Shang-Chi's like launched his rings in his belly, and he's like coming down from the sky, like doing the thing. That was incredible.
Epic.
So good.
It was so epic.
Chills. I was like, okay, normally
so cool.
normally movies have a hard time now because we're so desensitized to all these like big spectacles. They have a hard time making a spectacle that really makes you feel something. But I felt something when he was like,
cool.
when like Shang-Chi is just like, like as you're describing, it was just like visually so beautiful.
Yeah.
And also it was a moment because he's like finally has the 10 rings. He's like taking his father's power and like using it for good and blah.
Yeah, but also his mom's, right? Anytime there's like swirling nature stuff.
Well, he
like,
used his mom. Yeah, he used his mom's power. He learned how to use that to deflect. Like, guys, when they're spinning around in the circle and there's a top-down shot, yin and yang, right? Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Dark and light.
And that's narratively too, right? Like, he had to, like I said before, do both parts of his parents. But the other part of this movie, the other biggest theme I saw was pressure from parents to be the best version.
Right.
Like, to if you aim at nothing, you become nothing. There's all this, like, Asian parent pressure stuff in this movie.
I saw this movie with Lauren. Lauren was there as well, and I was like, "Oh, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit nothing." That's a good quote. And she's like, "You miss 100%."
I know. I wrote
take.
that down. Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky.
Same.
Yeah.
But the twist on that is you need to become the best version of your own person,
Yeah.
not what
You have to
not
trust
exactly
yourself.
what your parents want you to be.
Right.
Be something great, but be your version of that, and that's exactly what he is in that moment.
That's Shang-Chi, but that's also Katie here, where they kind of are both doing this valet thing because they don't really know what else to do, or they don't like want to try and aim for something. So I like that was such a big part of the well, I don't know if it was a big, huge, giant part of the story, but I like that they take the time, with Katie at least, to have this be a part of her character. She's not just there as like the funny comic relief sidekick. She has fears and desires and anxieties about living life, and they kind of address that.
And even that scene when they're in Katie's like apartment with her mom and her grandmother. That is exactly the family dynamic of an Asian family.
Right. So
like, it's like, oh, when are you going to marry her? Like, hello, come on, let's go.
Yeah. I've been meaning to ask you because, like, obviously this is the first, it's the first Marvel movie with a leading man who is Asian.
Yeah.
Did you feel seen, Brandon?
Well, the thing that I found annoying, even though I liked that they included a lot of those elements, is that they made him feel lame in a lot of them. Like, he's not, like, it's great to have all these different facets of, like, Asian culture and characters represented in personalities.
Right.
But they're also shown in the light that they're, like, they can be kind of lame, that they're kind of, like, awkward sometimes. And, like, that's great in a practical sense that, like, yes, that exists already. But it also doesn't give them something to look at, like, oh, yeah, these people are so great. These people are so, like, they're different than what society has decided or how I view, like, Asian American people in general.
Did you feel that was kind of a weakness?
I felt that was a little bit of a not a disservice, but, like, it felt like that is where they can improve. Like, they can like, Shang-Chi's kind of now what he, like, a lot cooler, and he could be a lot, like,
well, that was all Act 1 stuff at least.
Totally, yeah. And then that's why Katie's character to me felt a little bit flat, because she just felt like she was that, like, comic relief, which is, I understand that was her purpose, but also she didn't have the same level of depth. She didn't fully have the moments in the movie to overcome, like, that part of her personality. Like, she still kind of is that character. She hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they were exactly trying to do with her learning archery.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a scene where she says she doesn't have a Chinese name. And so it's like...
Well, she does have it. She does say her... She says her Chinese name at the dinner.
No, I think she said Ray Wen or something.
I don't remember the name exactly, but she says one.
I thought she was just making something up.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, generally, if you're Chinese.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, what?
No,
Who doesn't?
She has a Chinese name. I think she doesn't know how to say it properly or something. I forget.
Well, her Chinese, she couldn't speak Chinese, which actually is something that I connect with, because I can't speak Chinese very well.
Right.
But it was, again, just another representation of reality, but that isn't like I think a lot of the other Marvel movies that you'll watch, everyone looks cool right off the gate. Like, everyone is represented in, like, not a, like, lame way necessarily. Like, with some of the humor that can be argued, but
yeah, I mean, I feel like with Captain America, they start from a position of kind of weakness, or they have some sort of weakness, whether that be physical weakness or character weakness, and then they kind of move towards what do you call it?
Greatness?
Yeah.
But he kicks ass right off the jump, right?
The first time you see him fight, I love that. He's like, he doesn't know how to fight, and then, like, the next scene is him, like, superpowers, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate how you see him be very capable in the bus fight, but then even he still has stuff to learn, and so then when they go to Ta Lo, he learns how to. It's a great visual metaphor of him, like his primary fighting style is with this closed fist. He's all tensed up, right? And his aunt teaches him to kind of open it. Oh, it's the open palm technique, and that's how your mom was able to. You don't fight force with force. You redirect the force and kind of, like, learn to use it. You know.
Yeah, that was badass, and it was really good that they had those shots of him learning with his mom as a child, because if he had just gone to that village and learned that in a day and then beaten his dad, I would have been very pissed off. Yeah. But they have multiple shots of, like, oh no, he knew a lot of this. It's kind of baked in. We're just catching him up, and that was earned.
Do you think that they should have, like, turned his motivation a little bit more selfless? Because I feel like he's, like, you compare Captain America to him, and, like, Captain America, it's like you see him, like, be a really good person, and, like, being a superhero is part of that, and, like, it's like a power representation of his, like, inner being. But do you guys get the sense that, like Sean is, like, becoming a better person throughout this movie, or is he just kind of, like, facing?
I think so.
Well, we know that it was kind of a weird at the beginning of the movie. I wasn't clear, like, what is his motivation? What parts of him need fixing? What is he trying to get in this movie? It was always just kind of like, okay, well, now we need to move. We need to go to this place, and now we need to go to this place. But it wasn't like, there's no, like, thematic moment in Act 1 where it's like, that is the dramatic question of this movie. Can he do that? That wasn't really there.
The sort of question is like, well, he's a slacker and he's not living his life. But then the second the fight happens, it's like, well, that's over. Like, he's not a slacker. He's a superhero.
But it's not his. But is it his full potential?
Yeah, I think it's. But that's the thing. He's not a superhero, right? He's just been, like, chilling. He only fought when he had to fight, and I think that his arc is, going from running away, going from operating on fear, because of this trauma, to accepting what has happened to him and making a decision to try and integrate these two parts of himself, right? And I thought that it did that. It just took, as I agree with you, James, that there wasn't really, like, a step-by-step process to get there, but I think it got there by the end. So it was all that character
proactive, becoming more proactive. Remember we talked about those, like often just three levers you can make a main character increase.
Right.
When they arc, it's either like they're becoming more likable, more competent, or more proactive. And in this, I guess he's pretty proactive at the beginning because he's saying, "I'm going to go get my sister. I'm going to save her." He's just doing that himself. He doesn't.
That's true.
It's not like there's a call to adventure and he denies it. He just does that.
Yeah.
But I guess he's more proactive in the sense that he's being the best version of himself. He doesn't become more likable. He does become more competent, I guess.
He's proactive in the sense that he's like, okay, I know that my sister's in danger, so I'm going to go try and save her. But he's also stopping himself from confronting this trauma and fear that he has to in order to defeat the bad guy.
Right, and a big part of the big theme of this movie was letting go. Like both the kids are so messed up about the death of their mom, and then one of the final scenes is the lanterns for both their parents. You're like, hey, closure.
His motivations to me were pretty clear because like he was running away from his parents or his dad, and then his mom is dead, but he also didn't he wasn't a superhero, but he had all these skills that he was using to defend himself.
Right.
And to me, that's just a very his entire approach in the movie felt grounded. Like it felt like more real life than like having one specific big moment in the movie that then leads him to do all those other things. Like that doesn't really how real life works. So he's just all of his experiences in his life had led him to do these things, and all the new experiences, the fight, the 10 rings, the organization, his father coming back after him, then he needing to protect his sister. Those things just happened, and those were the logical things for him to do in those moments.
I guess what I feel like this movie was missing was like the current day obstacles that like refined him into being a better person. Like they're there, but I feel like a lot of the character growth was just like a flashback. It was like remembering a thing that happened. Like sure, that's like that can be really helpful, and it's like I just found I didn't feel like he was like facing someone from his past and like the current day and like having like a fight, but also having like a personal growth moment. I feel like I personally
he did do that with the "I'm not going to let you go" again to his
yeah, but that's like the absolute end. Like I'm talking about like
along the way.
I feel like the weakest part of this movie by far is the middle section,
Right.
and I think that's something they could have done is have him like really face specific obstacles that help him grow instead of just like going place to place. They're doing a thing. It wasn't like it didn't feel like they were coming up against huge obstacles.
Because this is the thing. Because if it's set out at the beginning what this character needs in order to become the best version of themselves, then along the way they should oscillate between ego and id, or like actualization and falling back to being their old ways. But his old ways is what? Just being a nice guy.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I feel like the middle section they didn't do a ton of development of Shang-Chi's character or even Xiaoling or anybody, but it was kind of, we did learn a bit more about Wenwu, and it's an interesting, I feel like Disney or Marvel kind of felt like they had to put in this like dinner scene where he kind of explains about Ben Kingsley's character and how
to like make up for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, that kind of felt it felt natural as I was watching it, but in retrospect, we're like, okay, that would have been nice to kind of get some more character development there. But I'm glad that they addressed it.
I liked that scene for the dynamic between the characters more than the info that you learned in it.
Because he's talking about how our names connect us not only to ourselves but to all of us.
What's your Chinese name?
Yeah,
and she's like she pauses for a second, then tells him.
Right, and I feel like that's important characterization for him because we learn that he's not. He's having a moment for dinner. He thinks that he truly believes that they can be a family again. Yeah, right? He still wants the family.
This is just like Black Widow.
Yeah, no, honestly, that is
funny.
at that point, and I think a few other times I was kind of like, oh, this is like the same thing where like part of the family is bad guys and there's like good guys and they're coming together.
And Shang-Chi is kind of like Black Widow in that like normal human, no powers, just a bunch of training,
right?
Trauma.
Yeah.
Except that he's actually way less good than her because she can like interrogate people and outsmart you, and she also can use weapons.
But I mean, by the end of the movie,
like firearms,
he would win in a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't actually know anything about how the 10 rings work, so we're not told they anyone who's like strong can grab them, or you have to be worthy. Like, so if he walked into the same room with Captain America, would they just go to Captain America?
Imagine Captain America has like Mjolnir and the 10 rings.
Like, we have no idea how they work.
I feel like because Shang-Chi's so well trained, I feel like even against Captain America, he could probably last for a bit.
I think
the 10 rings are remarkable 30 strength.
Oh no, without the 10 rings.
Oh, without them against Captain America.
Because I think he's so well trained. He's supposed to be like a top level. He's fighting off like the whole friggin' 10 rings army.
I think he's like similar level as Black Widow.
I
I think he's
feel like-
stronger than.
I feel like
he's
he's
stronger
at
than
least
Black Widow.
equal
Because
to
he's a man?
Black Widow.
No, because he can control the power
But
of wind.
she's also well now. Okay, yeah. By the end, when he's
also
using
at the beginning
Right.
of the movie, sure.
you're right. He's using a martial
I don't
art
even know.
from the gods.
I don't even know.
The
I mean-
wind thing is actually tied to the village. So the
Right.
reason that he's got that is when he's in
Yeah.
the when he's not
Oh,
in the village,
shit,
his
really?
character is not.
'cause
Yeah,
they
that's
have
actually
to-
part of the.
But Avengers
canon.
5, the Great Protector will show up in the final fight, and then you'll have his.
I was
own-
miffed that when the Great Protector brought them down to the beach and they step off, they never even shoulder check and go like, thanks,
Yeah.
bro, or nothing. They just like looked forward and started talking to somebody else. I'm like,
I was-
come on, you just
dude.
totally slighted
Great
this
Protector's really
demigod.
being taken for granted.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, they're not.
But the
giving
Great
him
Protector doesn't care. He's above human
Yeah, he's
drama.
a great protector, dude. It's in his name.
What do you guys think of the VFX in this movie?
Oh man.
Hit or miss, hey?
Honestly, yeah. Like the bus scene, not very good.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There was some pretty rough moments.
Dude,
in the,
you
the
didn't
bus.
notice that bus coming
It was-
over the hill, and
it
it was
was
like,
not
that is
great.
a CG bus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not great.
Wait, did you guys watch
I
it in
didn't.
3D or 2D?
I watched it
2D.
in IMAX.
2D.
Yeah,
IMAX?
2D, yeah.
I watched it in
I-
AVX 3D, which was a mistake. It's been a long time since I've
no.
seen 3D. I used to like 3D.
Was this on purpose?
Yeah. I was just like, oh,
You wanted to see it in
yeah.
3D?
I used to like
I
3D
didn't even know they
stuff.
still offered that.
And I was like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen a 3D movie. And then the second happened, I'm like, oh no, my brain
I've
doesn't like this.
never-
Oh no! The first 5 minutes of the movie, there's like it's in the opening when we're still in the 1,000 years ago past.
Yeah.
There's like a cart of gold that tips over
Oh,
towards the
yeah,
screen.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I exclaimed in the theater, "What?" That's how bad it was. But then later on, some of the VFX were so good.
Yeah,
But I
the
thi-
dragon stuff was
The
sick.
dragon looked so
So
good.
good.
It's just hit or miss. I think they do. There's too much VFX. Like
Yeah.
the bus scene in particular. You can tell they're ambling over this bus. They're on the roof of the bus. They're on the side of the bus. You can tell the actors are hanging on to real things, but it's just they're hanging on to a big square green screen thing.
Yeah.
And it's like last weekend I watched Speed from 1994. That movie fucking rules.
It's so good.
And they had like 14 buses. The budget was definitely less than this movie. So what? You can't get a real bus? I mean, it's just harder to
It's just practical.
perform
It's,
it.
like logistically, it's harder.
Yeah, they got to close down streets, speed down this hill, have your actor on the side of the bus.
VFX to just make it easier for everyone.
Yeah,
But the product is worse.
I didn't find the bus scene was too bad. Like, there's some really cool VFX shots. Like, I like when it's on the outside of the bus and it's kind of like the one shot of him moving through the whole group of people. I thought that was a cool shot. But yeah, as soon as the bus starts coming apart and like they whatever like the ground piece that's like has the sparks, I'm like, this looks like an amateur thing. I don't get why it was so bad.
I mean, that's what happens when multiple companies do the VFX
That's
for one
fair.
movie, right? Because there's so many companies that are doing the
Right.
VFX in different stages.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. I was like, they probably didn't, spend as long trying to make the bus look super good as they did.
Later in the
making
movie
dragon.
mattered way more. The
Oh,
dragon model
man.
and the darkness character,
Yeah.
the dragon thing.
Well,
At least they got the rings right.
The rings are awesome.
So
Looked
sick.
So
The
sick.
fight between him and his dad, like the ways that they were connecting and like
No.
Yeah.
Well,
the chain
the
like,
thing.
5v5.
Yeah.
that was sick.
Yeah, that's
That was
and,
really
like
cool.
he's like manipulating them around himself instead of like kind of like on his arm, like punching things.
Yeah, his fighting style is like an amalgamation of both his dad and his mom.
So
What
sick.
color do you think they'd be if they landed on you?
Green.
Not purple, because again, evil monsters, purple magic in this. So I think that's going to be. I don't know if they're like. I'm sure they're doing it on purpose, but purple magic in the Marvel universe, that's the worst
yeah,
kind of
that's so
magic.
true.
Yeah, it is.
Keeping it consistent.
Let's talk about that final scene. Best post credits ever when they ended up doing karaoke
Oh, it killed me.
with Wong. That was
Yeah, that's
amazing.
Unless.
That was so awesome.
Yeah. 'Cause I found the first time they did it in the movie, I was like, that's kind of funny, but it was worth it just for the setup for the ending.
With
Yeah.
Wong.
I didn't see it coming either.
I guess it's appropriate that they bring Wong in so many times in this movie. It starts to feel a little tokeny though, I guess. Like this is the token Asian Marvel movie. But hopefully later it just kind of all integrates.
Well,
Because Wong's been like the one, I think Mantis is also an Asian actress, but she's not really, she's an alien.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I Wong has been around, but it just kind of,
Are you seeing like the kind of thing where like there's a South Park episode where there's a new kid in school and she's black, and then Cartman is obsessed with getting her to date Token, who's also black. He's like, they belong together because they're both black.
yeah.
Is that how you're saying?
It's almost like because this is the Asian Marvel movie, we
then
have
he
to,
has to interface with the existing Asian character.
yeah, we have to pull out.
I
all
don't
of
know.
I don't know.
Those characters from Doctor Strange, they're often the ones who show up and
No.
bring everyone together.
That's
it worked
true.
for me. It worked for me.
I
No,
agree.
and I love
agree with your
Wong,
sentiment
yeah.
though, Riley.
Yeah.
Because it was a movie that was Central Asian character, and it was only like Asians in the movie, which
Yeah.
is not a bad thing per se, but it's also like, well, there's lots of other people in the world that you could have integrated into
Yeah.
this movie.
Like
I
literally
will-
Doctor Strange.
yeah.
Although
Right.
he's more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say that the Asian friends I saw this with were like, I asked them if they felt, pandered to it all, if this had like felt like Disney as being like, here's an Asian movie for you. And they were like, no, not at all. We loved it.
Fair.
They loved all of the Chinese cultural stuff.
There was one scene that I thought, that's a little woke.
What?
There's one, it was very, very quick. They're at the restaurant at the very beginning. They're having dinner with that friend who's a couple. And then Shang-Chi says, as a kid, I got made fun of for all the things that kids get made fun of for. And then it cuts to Indian American. He goes, yeah, I get it.
I agree with you
Yeah.
on that one. Yeah.
And it just seemed like it was like all the people of color audience are supposed to just look at each other and go,
Right.
see,
This is what happened to
They
us.
get
Yes,
us.
we've all experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Indian Americans have experienced
And then Shang-Chi's like, well, actually, I'm like a killer rich guy who, didn't even go to school ever. So it doesn't even make sense.
So like my one friend,
Maybe he went to high school after he escaped his dad, but
so my one friend Daniel, shout out to Daniel and Angela, thanks for seeing it with me. Daniel was like, it's been really frustrating to me to see Asian male characters.
hold on, are they a couple?
No.
D'Angela's like great.
D'Angela.
That's a great couple name. You guys should do it just for that.
Oh man, James says. Daniel was like, it's been really frustrating to see Asian male characters be kind of like, sort of incompetent in movies. Like a lot of the time they're played as the comic relief, or they are just kind of a helper character or whatever. And if there's an Asian female, then she's sort of like, because of the fetishization we have sort of in Western culture and in a lot of people, like they're victim to that. So in this one, he was like, I didn't feel pandered to at all. It felt really great to see like capable, strong Asian characters that aren't these like.
I think the result of having the entire cast be that way, it's like, well, you can't have a whole movie of one character. Therefore, you have to have different representations. You know, it's like when there's 50 Asian characters, they can't all be like
right.
lame. Like there has to be, there's a hero, there's a villain, there's a funny one.
So
like,
I guess that's kind of my question, is that like it sometimes it feels as if they're like, okay, we're gonna do an Asian movie and everything's Asian, all the characters are Asian except I think the fake Mandarin guy was the
and
the
the
sword
with
guy.
the knife hand.
yeah.
The like big burly like
Yeah.
European guy.
I've
That-
Romanian.
Did the sword come out of his arm?
It was
did,
longer than his
apparently,
arm.
Yeah.
but did he put it on, or did he put it on?
He put a new one on at the end with the like
That was
dragon
fun.
scale.
That was a great moment. I was like, fuck yeah.
But initially he just goes ching and it like comes out of his
Yeah,
arm.
it comes out of his
So
arm.
where was the sword?
Look, it's a universe
doesn't-
with spaceships and aliens. It's
Yeah.
possible that it folds out. Like
It
I
pissed
don't
me
know.
off when he had Shang-Chi in the driver's seat of the bus, and he was like narrowly gonna. It's like that sword's like hot,
Yeah.
and then I was just like, man, you're dead. You would have been dead.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I was saying though is that despite other than those two characters, literally everyone's Asian. And is the director Asian?
He's Hawaiian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So they're just like, okay, we're gonna make everybody Asian, and it feels to me as if they're like, okay, we did our Asian quota. You know,
Yeah.
like okay, we've done the Asian.
It'll
movie,
be
but
interesting to see how they
We'll see what
integrate
happens
Shang-Chi's universe and him as a character into the rest of
Right.
the MCU. But again, that's why I think that this movie didn't feel like a Marvel movie for the first
Yeah.
three-fourths, because it didn't have any of those elements. Like it had some of the structure, but like fundamentally the characters and the world that they were in felt very like in Earth.
Honestly,
while.
it felt weird seeing like Captain Marvel and the Hulk at the end of the movie. I'm like, this is the same universe? I'm like,
It felt
yeah.
shoved
Yeah.
into
Totally,
it.
yeah. It was like, okay,
I think
yeah.
it just felt weird because Captain Marvel's lame as hell. But
hate
She
Captain
is so
Marvel. She
lame.
sucks.
Oh, and they gave her that lamer haircut. She's like the Karen of the Avengers.
Yeah.
They might recover her. They might make
We'll
her
see.
better.
I hope that. I mean, they definitely could.
Yeah.
There's definitely things they could do. I do like this kind of characterization of her as like people try to reach her and she's just not available. Like she just doesn't care.
Doesn't care about the rest of the
Like Bruce can
Avengers.
give you my number and he's like, I don't have her number. I don't know it.
What do you think they're
She's so
setting
annoying
up?
to work with.
The fact that like the rings are a beacon and there's something inside them, and the Mandarin. It's not said in this movie, but he got the rings from an alien.
Mm.
In this movie, they just
really?
said, "Oh,
Did they say that?
Yeah.
No, in this movie they said we don't know where it came from. He found it in a temple or something.
I think it's implied that it's like some extra dimensional being or some extraterrestrial or something.
it's implied by the end credits scene.
Yeah.
Because it's more ancient than 1,000 years, and because it has like an active beacon in it, and all the space people are there. So it's
I think that's like the perfect, to me, that's the perfect foreshadowing for whatever the end of Phase 4 is going to be. Like, I like that stuff where it's like, it means almost nothing now. It's like kind of cool, but like at the end of Phase 4, they'll be like, oh, they knew what they were doing. Whoa.
the rings were a space MacGuffin that we got to follow.
Yeah.
Like they're the new Infinity Stones.
Or it's like, yeah, it's like part of it or whatever.
Yeah, I thought I had seen an allusion to who the big villain is going to be for
In the
Phase 4,
trailer.
but I completely forgot.
Isn't that Galactus? That was in the
Was that Galactus?
Eternals? I'm not sure. I think that's someone I recognize.
In the Eternals trailer,
Yeah.
trailer played
Yeah,
for
there's
this.
Galactus in the Eternals trailer, right?
yeah, for like a split second.
A giant person, anyway.
Yeah, I want to talk about. Did this feel to you like the return of movie theater to you? Because this felt like the first time I went to the movies and was like, oh yeah, I'm watching like a brand new movie with like a bunch of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if it's a yes, it's because the audience actually gave a shit.
My audience clapped at the end, and I hated.
really?
Yeah, they were like, ah!
Oh, wow.
I had people. I didn't have that,
my
but
audience did the same
throughout the movie, maybe it's because I wasn't in IMAX or AVX. I actually went to a smaller theater because I didn't want 3D, so it was like cinema in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the first movie where funny stuff's happening and people around me are laughing.
Yeah.
Like just you're going to the movie because you want to be in the crowd and feel the
Right.
crowd. And this had that. Whereas when I saw like Fast 9, everyone was just like, "Get me out of here!
Yeah. Sure.
This
Were you
fucking
gonna say
sucks."
This is my first movie since like COVID hit, and
Oh, yeah?
so
First theater
I was
movie.
theater movie, and I'm like, I actually missed this a lot more than I thought I did.
You didn't even go last summer, like when Tenet was coming out and stuff.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't.
This was my first movie in a while going with like a group of people. I had seen movies in theaters a couple times because we did new movies for the podcast, but like, it was kind of last minute and I couldn't find anybody. I went to a couple by myself, but this was like a group of 4 people, and I was like, this feels good.
Yeah.
And I think something that also plays into that is the fact that this movie, like we were saying, doesn't really feel like it was already slotted into the rest of the MCU. It felt very much like a Phase 1 movie where we don't need to spend a ton of time connecting this to the rest of the universe. It's just this origin story. It's contained. And then at the end, we're going to hint at something bigger.
And I think that's what made it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Without like overdoing here's the cameo of this person. Here's the cameo of this person. Like,
I mean, there is something to be said, and we've talked about this before. There is something to be said about like building this interconnected universe, and then you can like play around with all these different action figures.
Yeah,
in your
but is this
story.
how they plan the phases? Do they do at the beginning of a phase, they're more standalone, and then as the phase goes on,
I
they
think so.
interconnect
I
them
think
more?
it's
That's how it felt.
I think they just recognize that like you need both. You need the like
Yeah.
jumping on points, but then you also need like the Spider-Mans that have like that like to fully grasp everything that's going on. You're going to have watched a bunch of movies.
Yeah. I think Doctor Strange came pretty late. I think he was like a Phase 2 or 3 movie, but it was kind of the same thing where it was like not very connected to anything, but they needed to establish him so that they could bring him in Infinity War.
Yep.
But I think for the most part, it does kind of go from like standalone stories that aren't super, super connected until like the post-credit scene or whatever to like Captain America Civil War, which is just an Avengers movie, but it's like a Captain America movie.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's another dimension where it's like, if it's your first movie, it's more standalone.
I think so. Like the first Ant-Man movie doesn't require much knowledge. Captain Marvel didn't really require much. Like
The first what about the first Spider-Man, though?
No, you would have been fine. Like you
Well,
need to know
Iron Man's
Tony
in it.
Stark, but like
Yeah.
you would have got. I think you would have gotten the gist of it without Tony Stark or without understanding Tony Stark's past. But yeah, the trailers before that movie too, buddy. I'm pumped for the movie theater next couple.
Are you
months.
pumped for the Eternals?
I am. I didn't think I was going to be, but then that
I didn't
trailer
care at all.
That trailer, no, I think it's gonna be really good.
You know what I realized about myself, and this, maybe, is that I saw the trailer for Eternals, and then this one as well. Not excited for either of those movies, but maybe that's because I have no nostalgia for them. All my like comic book nostalgia is basically, I didn't really read comics. I mostly just watched 90s cartoons, so Spider-Man and X-Men mostly. And when I see a trailer for that, I'm stoked. But when I see Eternals, like I see Eternals and there's a guy shooting stuff out of his eyes, and I'm kind of just rolling my eyes. I think I'm seeing the trailer like my wife sees the trailer. But if that same guy was Scott Summers, I'll be like, fuck yeah, X-Men's back. It might just because of nostalgia.
I think for me it was the tone and the style of it. And I mean, the director is like the director of No Man's Land. It's like Chloe Zhao, and like I love that Marvel is like kind of taking risks on bringing in like artistic directors. And I feel like this movie is just going to be not just another Marvel movie. Like, it's going to have some form of expression, and certainly it's going to be contained within what the MCU needs to be. But I just think that it'll be slightly elevated.
feels like
the
the right direction.
Yeah, totally. And I'm genuinely excited about it.
I agree.
I am excited, but I also am like it could really go either way. But I feel like Marvel knows now. Like I feel like it would be really hard for them to make a bad movie.
You know what I like
Captain
about
Marvel.
Eternals though?
What?
Yeah,
Captain
Well,
Marvel.
I mean, yeah.
But I also think that's because of Brie Larson, maybe.
Yeah, I think.
No,
Well,
it's
okay.
just the movie is
there are a
bad.
lot of problems with, but I feel like honestly they've learned since Captain Marvel. I feel like with Captain Marvel they were like that was their first female-led
I guess
superhero
so,
movie,
yeah.
I think. And I think one of the problems they fell into is the problem that a bunch of these recent big blockbuster movies with female leads have done, where they think that in order to have a strong female character, they just need to make them super overpowered.
Yeah.
And so they're Mary Sue's. It was the same thing with Rey. Like Captain America goes through this, like he goes from extreme weakness to moderate strength, and it's the character strength that really brings us there. But for Captain Marvel, she doesn't have that extreme weakness, and her character doesn't really change that much, and so it's just kind of dissatisfying.
Well, you think about
but
the
I
rest
think
of
they've learned.
You think of the rest of the MCU, and there's no character that doesn't have a glaring weakness. Like, I don't even know who's like the most powerful MCU characters, but like they all have huge
Wanda?
weaknesses. But Wanda, like you could kill. Like, there's a lot of situations in which you could kill Wanda, and like you can imagine her being killed.
Same with Wen Wu. Why doesn't someone just shoot him in the head from a distance?
He can block it with the rings.
If he
I guess.
sees it coming.
Yeah.
It's. I feel like that was kind of one of the strengths of like having a weapon like the 10 rings, is that you don't really know exactly what it can do and its strengths and weaknesses. Like the guy was shooting at him with a shotgun from point blank, and he's just like blocking it somehow.
That was actually an interesting moment, like when he's riding up to the army on the horse, and he's got the rings, so you know he's got like powerful, but like he's like, what is he going to do? Because I'm not sure. This army of rings or arrows is coming at him, but is he gonna like destroy them all instantly, or is he gonna like he's
he kicked so much ass in that scene that I was like, why does he even have an army? Exactly. He blazes a trail and goes and sits on the throne, and then he lets normal humans go and fight, and probably half of them die. I'm like, man, that sucks for those guys.
Outsourcing.
Can you just kill them all for us?
Well, so he doesn't have to actually go out and do the work. You know, he can just chill.
So easy.
He can sit on his throne.
He could just sit on the throne and make the rings go back and forth through people's heads.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some nitpicks.
Let's do it.
Biggest nitpick, his final fight outfit.
Yes, that's my biggest nitpick.
Oh,
he gets
I'm so glad
he
you
gets his
reminded me of
armor.
Yeah.
Like everything above the waist, super cool. Below the waist, she's wearing like Dickies and like some like high top like Velcro Nikes.
So
what the fuck?
This is so funny because I did not notice this at all, but the friends I saw it with were like, Daniel and Angela were like, yo, what? He was wearing sneakers.
Yeah.
They're like, it doesn't make any sense.
I get what they're going for, I guess, where it's like he's still just Sean from the block, but like, no, it was such a bummer. Like everyone else has this like incredible fantasy armor. Like his dad has like a sick fantasy armor. There's a fucking flying dragon. He's got high tops.
His sister's got that
like,
cool weapon.
Pants. Yeah,
that's really, really, really long.
Yeah, no, I think it was a mistake.
It must have been some sort of attempt to kind of keep him grounded to his like San Francisco personality.
Not into it,
but yeah. I mean,
honestly, I don't even know if it's intentional. It seems like an oversight.
I did not notice.
I didn't
at
notice
all.
it either.
See what?
No,
like,
honestly,
because
because the top half of his costume looked great to me, and I was only focused on that and the action.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at his feet at all.
I noticed that and this might not have been intentional. Maybe it was just me thinking about it, but they don't show that much of his bottom half unless it's like moving really fast.
Right.
And I wonder if like they had other shots and they didn't use them, or if they shot it intentionally not to show it that much, or what it was.
Yeah, you don't see him head to toe that often.
Yeah. But I could not help but stare at his shoes.
I wonder if the editor did that. They're like, let's zoom in because he looks so.
I see.
It's so funny. I guess I was just looking at his face the whole time. But
yeah, top half sick. I mean,
I like the costumes overall. I actually thought like costumes was one of the strongest elements of this movie.
yeah, there's some really good ones.
And like the animal design, like the lion.
that
thing was so
that's
cool.
One of my hit picks when you first see the lion, and then like I was like, oh, it's like one of those big Chinese statue lions or whatever. But then when the Talo people were like, you shouldn't be here, and the lion is in the back like growling, I was like, yo, that guy's gonna be badass in the battle.
And he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any dragon scales, but he can still kill those soul sucker things.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like,
blessed teeth.
but
Magical village, don't forget.
totally
I think,
works.
I think it's just that they're like magical creatures and they can have the power.
What do you guys think? I actually like kind of felt something with that CG, like the one where he's like, oh, that's a weird looking horse.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
So funny.
But I thought the creature like did look mystical in a way that like didn't affect me, but I was like, yeah, that works.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It was a dragon horse.
Dragon horse,
It was
yeah.
so cool.
Apparently, those are real
I didn't love
creatures in Chinese mythology.
The chicken butt ones?
I didn't
I don't know
love
about the chicken butt one.
The Pokemon fox, the Ninetales.
Yeah, the Ninetales. It looked like Ninetales.
It didn't look great.
It looked okay. I think I really didn't like
Ninetales
Morris.
is literally just
You didn't
supposed
like
to be.
Morris?
No, I don't know. Like I like the idea.
You didn't like
didn't like
Morris?
Morris?
I don't know. I
What's
didn't,
wrong with
I
you?
didn't connect
Morris
with him. I
was
need a face.
adorable.
I need a face.
You know, Morris is like the Ottoman in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought in the car,
Him and Trevor together
So
were
funny.
hilarious.
Morris was awesome.
Yeah.
I would have liked to. This is my own stupid brain. I wanted there to be a fart joke in the car, where it came out of Morris and someone's like, where did that even come out of? Because he has no holes.
I guess my problem with Morris is my cynical brain kicked in and was like, that's a stuffy. Like that's just like a stuffy they can sell. And when I can see that like, oh, he's designed to easily be a stuffed animal, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
But that's just my cynical, stupid brain.
I think I was just like, I spent too much time when we first meet him just processing what he was. I was like, he doesn't have a face. He's got 6 wings and 6 legs. I'm so confused.
He doesn't have 6 legs.
Yeah, he does. I thought he did.
I think it's for like 6 wings.
Oh, okay, my bad.
It's whatever.
I'm so sorry.
Chicken pig. Hilarious.
But yeah, when he was like, Morris is like on another level, and then I was like, you can't possibly comprehend how his brain works. Oh, he says go.
That was a good moment.
So much good comedy there. Here's a hit pick. Memorable side characters. And like, I don't like Shai Ling very much, but like the fight promoter guy,
Yeah.
he was hilarious.
Oh, really?
What's his name? He's a
John.
comedian.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
The guy on the bus recording it.
Yeah.
That guy was so good
funny,
that I
yeah.
thought he was gonna like tag along for the movie.
Yeah.
That guy was so funny. He's like, yo, what's up? All right,
Yeah.
here's your boy. Blah,
Like,
blah,
oh,
blah.
you
course
got
they
this. And then the guy
integrated
pulls the
that.
sword out. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, hilarious. And then of course Trevor Slattery, Brian
Yeah,
Kingsley,
yeah.
a great side character.
He's like, I'm going to be providing some commentary on the technique used here in the company. Like,
This is more than a nitpick, but I guess I missed my chance to say it. But Michelle Yeoh's character, boring as fuck.
Which character is that?
That's the aunt.
oh, yeah, Michelle
She's
Yeoh.
so boring.
Kung Fu movie legend.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
she's
she
an
in
incredible actor.
Crouching Tiger?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
You
know.
know, I thought she did
She's
it.
their aunt.
What depth is there? She's like just an idea. She's not a real character. She's just like,
It
I
would-
am perfect.
She's
No,
Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But
It
Obi-Wan
would've
has
been-
some failings and
It's
some.
true. It
Yeah,
would
I
have been
don't
nice
know.
to have some sort of like tragic flaw there, or some sort of like any type of flaw. She
And
just
even-
kind of comes in and she's
even
like,
Well, she's
she
coming
was-
in late.
she's
game,
the surrogate
guys.
mother, you know?
No, but she's there for like half the movie, and I
half
wish
the movie.
almost. She's there for a long time.
Probably a quarter to a third.
Yeah,
I'd say a
I
third.
think if she was responsible for blocking her sister out, and like she had this huge guilt
Oh,
that she
that
was
would be
dealing with,
cool.
like that could have been something. But she just like is a perfect person. She's only good. There is no like complication to a relationship with
That
her.
would be-
I was unimpressed.
I
Okay,
completely agree.
okay.
That would have been super. That would have been great. Yeah, but as it is, she's just kind of like, we didn't actually mean to send her away.
And she gives Sean his power, or like helps give him his powers.
Yeah.
Like she's just a force of good.
That training scene is great.
it's a
though.
great training
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
I do like.
Any
it.
other nitpicks?
I have a hit pick, which was kind of related to what we were talking about earlier, but like I love how they're just casually driving this SUV into like a magical land with crazy Pokemon
Yeah, the
creatures.
BMW sponsorship.
Yeah, that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I definitely saw it that way, but it was also like, I'm like, oh, this is like Pokemon Snap. They're like driving
Oh,
around.
especially the top
yeah.
down. Or no, like for the old Pokemon games, the top down and you're walking through the bushes and they kind of
yeah,
sway back
exactly.
and forth as you
Yeah.
navigate.
One sort of a deeper hit pick that I wanted to get to earlier, but we didn't, where in the final not the final, but semi-final confrontation between Shang-Chi and Wenwu, when Wenwu's like, you're just afraid. You spent your entire life afraid, always running, always hiding. And then Shang-Chi swings the staff at him, but he like, it's almost implied that he pulls it, like he pulls the strike, because Wenwu just moves his head back like an inch and it doesn't hit him. And I was like, oh, is that like an indication that Shang-Chi is afraid? Like he's trying to strike at his dad, but he's too afraid to actually strike, so then he like pulls it.
Maybe.
I don't know. I was like, maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but if that was intentional, I was like, oh, that's really cool.
That would have been cool. Who knows? I love that part where she's like, I like your spiky face. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of Awkwafina humor that really makes the show.
Yeah. Or when she has the money and he's like, did you bet against me? And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
I kind of thought
Yeah,
he was
like,
going to
I like your
destroy the
pants.
rings. When he said, I'm going to kill my dad, I thought, no, you're not. You're going to destroy the rings, though, and that's going to be a type of death. But then I didn't realize that, I guess Shang-Chi needs those to be who he is.
He does refuse the rings, which is good. It shows like he's like, I don't
he,
want
he
the
throws
power.
them off at
Yeah.
the ground, but before he actually like beats his dad.
Yeah, I don't want the power for myself. And I'm not gonna like take the rings and like kill your dad. Like he says he's gonna kill him, but then he kind of like realizes that he wants to save him instead. He's trying to be like, Dad, please don't do this.
That was a good moment when he's getting his soul sucked and like they're like make eye contact and there's like
Oh,
the
I love-
flashback.
man,
I felt that. I was
loved
like,
that whole confrontation. I just it really brought it back to like that this is a family. They're a screwed up family, and bad things have happened to them, and they've made bad choices. But like, at the end of the day, this villain isn't so much a villain as like a lost person, and he, he does get that sort of redemption at the end, and I love it.
My last nitpick is it was really unclear how many people were fighting at the end. Because like at the beginning, the first fight, there's like probably like 50 people on both sides, and then like you see a couple hundred people die at some points, and then you see like dozens of souls get pulled in. You're like, okay, yeah. But then at the end, at the final beach scene, there's like way more people than there was in the fight, and I'm like, what?
The women and children showed up. I mean, the children showed up. Women were already fighting.
It didn't really seem that.
I don't know. To me, it just felt like the final fight was inconsistent in numbers.
Well, they say that they're just like a tiny village in a giant land. You're actually in a different dimension, so maybe their friends came.
Yeah, what was that thing? Like, so
another city.
There used to be giant cities in Talo?
No, they currently are.
Oh.
Yeah, they alluded to, and there are like other villages like Talo in the universe.
But not even villages like it. They said that there's like great cities. They showed skyscrapers and that like wooden carving thing.
I thought they were saying though that there were great cities and great skyscrapers, but then they got decimated by the dweller that dwells in darkness or whatever.
Oh,
and now the cities aren't there anymore.
Oh, I thought the cities were still there. They just couldn't. They weren't connected anymore because they had to close the gates.
Oh. Through the gate is where the cities were.
I thought that's like it was a dimensional gate.
3 different readings on that.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm sure by the end of Phase 4 we will have more clarification.
That was a big wooden carving, right? That whole thing was practical.
Was it? It looked great. Yeah, there was a lot of really beautiful like wooden carvings. Like when the mom is facing off against the gangsters, like in the background it's like a huge wooden carving of a wall, and I was like, this is like incredible craftsmanship.
Yeah, production design was awesome.
Was it real?
I think so. I think that one was probably.
You think it was a real carving?
That's
I don't think they would have CG'd like that set. There was no reason.
They got that money.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If they can CG like
they reuse that set a
to...
lot. Like that's the same set where they use like they get the water dragon and like the water map and stuff. So that's a common set that they show a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think they probably would have built it.
Yeah, I agree.
Just got to say before we end that Angela wished me to say that she gives this movie 10 rings out of 10 rings.
Nice.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's it.
One's for my ex-husband. Never gave it back to him. Thank you for watching They're Just Movies. Welcome to season 2 of this podcast, baby.
Woo!
You can still tweet at us at Carpool Critics. You can still email us hello@carpoolcritics.ca. We're going to change all that stuff later. We're going to change the assets later.
And next week we'll have all the new art. So prepare your brain.
Yes.
No art this week?
No, because people will just be confused.
Only science.
Like, I didn't subscribe to They're Just Movies. What is this?
They're not just movies to me.
They're carpets.
I like doing it with the other there, like THEIR. They're getting their just movies.
They're
like just
they're
deserved.
proper movies.
Anyways, bye.
See you later.